To the Dextroverse. 700mg DXM. 12:20 p.m. Took 700 mg of pure powdered DXM. Method of ingestion was via 3 bombs/parachutes. There were 2 other people present, Josiekins, who was taking the same dose as me, and a sober friend/sitter. 12:40 p.m. First plateau/starting to feel the effects of the DXM, tingling feeling at the end of fingers and toes, and slightly dizzy. 12:50 p.m. Second plateau/dissociation starting to come on. Very floaty headspace. When moving, it feels like I am on autopilot. 1:20 p.m. Me and my other dissociated friend spent a little time recording ourselves on my webcam. It was at this point that I was starting to find it difficult to string sentences together, and could not just talk naturally without having to force the words out. After this point, I cannot remember the whole experience, due to being in and out of the D-hole for the next 6 hours. Most of my awake moments only involved me opening my eyes, mumbling a few words and passing back out again a few seconds later. However, I can remember specific events occurring. 3RD/4TH plateau. I was feeling completely detached from my body, like I was just a mind that was completely separated from anything. Every time I had to move, I would just find myself in the place I needed to be, with barely any recollection of the actually transition from one room to another. It was as though my body was on autopilot, all I had to do was think about going somewhere and I would suddenly be in that room. The parts where I remember walking, it was very difficult to control my motor control, and getting anywhere required holding onto walls, banisters etc. the whole way. I remember feeling very disorientated, and panicking that my parents had been trying to get in touch with me. I tried looking at my phone, but where my vision was blurry, I couldn't make out any of the writing on the screen, meaning I couldn't tell whether I had been called. In the end, my sitter had to remove my phone and turn it off, to prevent me from calling my parents. I was repeatedly asking my sitter whether I had been contacted, but then forgetting I had asked seconds later. I apparently kept asking where I was, due to the memory loss, and had to be calmed down as I was appearing to be becoming scared. The visual side of the trip wasn't as strong as the dissociating side. However, I remember on several occasions flying through a void, surrounded by pixelated buildings, think Minecraft. The colors were darker than I experience on psychedelics like LSD and psilocin, mostly the darker shades, or gray/metallic colors. During the brief periods where my eyes were open, I remember thinking that everything had a very Cubist/Picasso look to it. It was as though any object I looked at had been chopped up, and rearranged. As well as looking different, objects had completely different textures to what I was used to. The whole room was blurry and I was experiencing double vision when I tried to focus on one particular thing. When just glancing briefly upon anything, although I had no double vision, the object would leave behind blurred tracers. At several points during the trip, I remember seeing people I knew in the room that weren't actually there. One hallucination I had was where the trip I was currently having and a memory of a trip with 3 of my friends merged together. The friends in my hallucination I actually saw seated around me and moving. However, outside of that hallucination, any people that weren't physically in the room, I could just feel a sort of presence of. Towards the end of the experience, there were a few interesting things I noticed. I started to come down around 7. I could keep my eyes open for longer, and could start to talk more easily. I still had memory loss, minutes would feel like hours. I had a period of feeling about a foot shorter than I really was. If I looked down at my legs, they looked incredibly short. My surroundings seemed larger than normal too. I was also left with an afterglow of feeling rather awake and talkative, staying up until 3 a.m. talking. Food also tasted bland or just had no taste, as well as the textures feeling slimier than normal. After the peak of ego death, I said several times that I regretted taking the DXM and wouldn't do it again. However, the further away I got from ego death, the more I started to consider DXM to be one of the more interesting and profound trips I've ever had.